Hello guys, welcome back to our UiPath tutorial series. In today's session, we will be focusing on one of the most important concepts in UiPath, which is data table. So we will go through what is data table, then all the data table activities supported by UiPath, and also we will see example and some use cases. So as you can see here, we have many data table activities in UiPath. We have add data column, add data row, build data table, clear data table. In this session, we will cover all the data table activities and we will know how it works. So let's first understand what is data table. You can think of a notebook. Like as you can see here in this image, we have a grocery list, we have a date column, a store, total and total. So we have 4 columns here. In the same way, in our data table, we can represent this data in a digital format. Data table in UiPath allows you to store, organize and manipulate tabular data efficiently. You can add any number of rows, you can add any number of columns, and you can filter as per your requirement. You may have seen in Excel table, we store data in Excel. In the same way, UiPath can store data in the data table so that we can perform all the manipulation and we can automate our use cases. Let's now go to UiPath and build an automation. So I am going to create a new process, data table automation. So to get the data table activity, just type data table in activities pane. So now you can see we have a programming and inside that we have data table and we have multiple data table activities. So let's go one by one. So let's first explore what is build a data table. So suppose that you want to initialize a data table, or you want to create a dummy data table, or you want to create a data table with data. You can use this activity. So what you have to do, you have to click on this data table button, go here and declare columns as per your requirement. By default 2 columns are already there and 1 row is already there. You can delete it as required. So let's create one new column, name, and you can see there are many options. So one is data type. You can see we have multiple data type option. If you want any other data type which is not available here, you can click on browse for types. Then we have allow null. If you want to put null value in this column, you can check this box. You can also put a default value. You can also make it unique and you can also declare the length. If it is -1, it means it is not having any restriction of the length and you can store any number of characters. So let's click on OK. We will create one more column, ID. So once done, we will click OK. So now we have a schema ready. We can click on this data table in property section. You can see these properties and create a variable. So I'm pressing Ctrl K button and we'll create a data table variable. So once the variable is created, we can use add data row activity to add data in this particular data table. So we'll drag this add data row activity and you can see here we have 3 text boxes. So first we will type the data table variable name, which is data table 1. Now we have 2 options. One is array row, second one is data row. So suppose that if you have a data row variable and you want to add that data row variable in this data table 1, then you can simply type that variable name here and it will get added in this variable. But if you have an array row format, so you can keep it here. So as we had 2 columns, right? One is name and ID. We will use this one, array row. And what you have to do, you can just put one curly braces in double quote. So I am putting ABC and then comma and then we have to put ID. So let's put 1 2 3. We had 2 columns. So same way I have added 2 fields here. So what it will do, it will add one data row in this data table. So now I want to see this value in a message box. So for that, what we will do, we will use output data table as text. Here we need to use this data table 1 variable and in the output, let's create a string variable. So I have created output text. Now take one message box. Let's give this variable name output text and run this. So as you can see, we have added ABC 1 2 3 and the same it is showing here in the message box. So suppose that we want to add one more data row. So what we will do, we will copy it, we will paste it here and let's change the name DFG and the ID to 153 and we have to use the same data table variable and let's run it again. So now you can see we have 2 values, one is ABC and DFG. So now we understood what is build data table, what is add data row, and then how to convert this data table into a text format. So let's go back again and search for data table. Now suppose that we already have 2 columns, name and ID. I want to add one more column at runtime. So for that, what you will do, we will take add data column activity. So let's tick this one. In this also, we have 3 text boxes. So first one, let's put the data table variable name. Then we have a column. So if you have a data column object coming from some other data table, right? You can use the same object here. But if you want to just give a name, you can keep it here. So I am giving it active. Okay. And you can change its properties here. So column name is active. Type argument, we can put it as a string itself, and then allow null value. I will mark it as yes. If no, we can also mention default value. So I can mention false, or so I can mention false here, and let's run it what it does. So now you can see it has added one new column with a default value as false. What if we want to change the value to true? So what we can do, we can simply in this array, we will add one more field as true, and I am not adding it here. Let's see what happens. So what happened, we had defined as true, then it's showing here. We had not defined anything, then by default it took false. What if we remove this default value from here? Let's see what happens. It will come as blank. There will be no default value if we don't put anything here, right? So now we understood what is add data column, what is add data row. Now we also know what is build data table. So the next one is clear data table. So suppose that if your data table has some values and you want to clear everything from this data table variable, so what we will do, we will use clear data table. So let's see it. For this output data table, we'll give the same name and then run it. Now as you can see, we have added 2 data row, but still it's not showing anything here because it has already cleared the data table. So let's delete it from here for now. The next one is filter data table. So suppose that if you want to filter some data based on a column or multiple columns, so what we will do, we will use this activity filter data table. So in the first text box, we will put our variable name. In the filter data table, we will use another variable name, or you can use the same variable name here. So I will be using the same variable, and we have to click on configure filter. So once you come here, you have 2 tabs here. One is filter rows and another one is output columns. In the filter rows, again we have 2 options. One is keep, one is remove. So based on this condition, if you want to remove those values or keep those values, you have to select this ready box. So let's put column name as name, then we'll put equal and we'll put ABC. We'll select as keep. Let's see what happens. So I'm running it now. Now you can see what it did. It only kept ABC, but we had DFG value as well, but it got filtered out. So now what if we want to select remove? Let's see what happens. So what it did, it removed ABC and it kept only DFG, right? Now suppose that we want to create more rows, right? So let's create some rows here. So EFT 546. I'm just giving a random name here. So I have added 2 rows here, 2 rows from these activities, and added a filter with remove. So let's run it. So as you can see, it has removed only ABC because we had selected remove. Now what is output column? So in the output column, you can choose to keep some columns or remove some column. So suppose that I want to remove ID column, right? So what you can do, you can select remove here and you can put ID and click OK. It means now it has removed ID column from here. Now if you want to just keep this column only and you want to remove everything, so you can select keep and click OK, and then let's run it. Now you can see it has only kept ID column and remove every other one. So now we understood what is filter data table. Now we have for each row in data table activity. So let's see what it does. For now, I will remove this filter data table from here. So as the name is saying, right, for each row in data table, it means this is a loop and it will run for each row present in this data table. So what we will do, we will put data table 1 and we have item name as current row. You can change this name as per your requirement if you want to, and then in the body you can choose to do any other operation on this current row. So what we will do, we will add a one message box here. And we'll use this variable current row. So one thing is that this current row is a data row variable. Okay. So suppose that you want to extract some data from this data table on the basis of a column. So we have a name column, right? So we'll put name and then we can put dot to a string, and let's run this bot. So you can see in the for each row it is running one by one, and it is also displaying name column. So first one is the EFD, second one is this one, third one is ABC, fourth one is DFG. In the same way you can concatenate multiple columns. Current row id dot to a string, and you can also choose to add some text here. So let's give name and id each, or id, then concatenate here. Okay, let's run it. So now you can see it is printing name and id. It will print for all four. So now what next? In for each row, you can perform any operation on this current row and data table 1 as per your requirement. Now suppose that I want to change some column name value. What we will do using this for each row assign activity. So let's pull one assign activity here. We'll copy this current row, paste it here, and then we'll put name column. And here in the value to save, let's just give a name here, ABC coder. Okay. Now let's see what it does. So you can see here, it has updated the name of the existing data. So now the name is showing as ABC coder. It will change for every other rows. And in the output text box as well, it will update this name. It means that it has updated the data table itself. That's the reason it is showing like ABC coder. And this is how you can perform manipulation on data table variables using this for each row activity. Now we understood for each row. So the next one is generate data table from text. So let's see how to use it. For this what I am going to do is I will create one new sequence. So once this new sequence is created, what I am going to do is I will use this text file. So I have some data present in this text file. As you can see here, we have a product ID column, product name, category, price, quantity, and total value. So now if you want to convert this text file into a data table variable, so for that we can use this activity, generate data table from text. Now what we have to do is first is we have to read this text file. So let's read it. For this what we will do, we will use read text file activity. Okay, and we have to give the path. So let's copy this path. So once it is done, we will create a string variable, and then we will use generate data table from text activity. In this input we will use this text variable which we created just now, and in the data table we can create one data table variable. So let's create one dt variable. Now we can click on options, and here you can see multiple options. So in the sample input, what we can do, we can copy this from here, we can put it here, and then click on preview. So now you can see it is taking everything in a one column 1. So let's see what we can do here. In the format we can put column separator as tab. Let's see what it does. Now you can see once we put it as tab, it has created multiple columns as per this text format, right? So we need to select column separator as tab. We also have many options. So you can see we have a space, tab, new line, colon, comma, semicolon, equal sign. And in the format we have CSV, fixed width columns, and in the new line separator also we have a space, tab, new line. So based on your requirement you can make these changes. Then we can click on OK. So once it is done, we will again use output data table as text activity to convert this data table into a text format. So let's use dt variable, and in the output we'll put output text, and then we'll take one message box. So now you can see it has completed the read, and it has also converted into a data table format. So we have multiple column 1, column 2, column 3 till column 6. Now suppose that we want to sort this data based on product ID. So for that what we can do, we can use sort data table activity. So let's use this one. So in the data table we need to give the data table variable name, and on the column we have to give the column name. So let's give the name here. So we can give product ID. So it's already in ascending order, so we can select as descending, and in the output we will put the same variable name. Let's run and see what happens. Okay, so this gave an error, so let's see what is the error. Okay, I got it. So what was the issue? In the data table we don't have this as a column name, but we have a column 1 as column name, so we have to give this column name. So we'll stop it, and then we'll give this column name as column 1 and save it. Now you can see product ID got sorted in descending order. So one issue we found that the first row, right, the product ID and product name, it is taking as a row itself, not as a column name. So for this, what we can do, we can go back to options and select this checkbox, use first row as column header. So check this box, click OK. So now if we give product ID here, then it will start working. So let's see. So as you can see, it is working as expected, and also column 1, column 2 is gone because now column name is product ID. So now the next activity is get row item. So now let's see how to use it. In the for each row activity, we were using message box, and we were getting this value using this expression, which is current row and then column name and then to a string. But if you don't want to use any expression like this, what you can do, you can use get row item. So in get row item, you need to use this current row, and in the column you have to specify the name, like column name, and then the value will be output in a string variable. So let's create one variable value, and then we can print this value here. I am deleting this as an activity, and let's run it. So now you can see the value is coming as expected. Now the next one is join data tables. So let's see how it works. So for this, what I am going to do, I will create one new sequence. Here what I am going to do, I am going to use two build data table, and we'll create two data table variables. So in the first build data table, let's take one ID and give it as integer. Click OK. Then one name. That's it. In the second one, let's use the same columns. ID as integer, and then name as a string. And let's create two separate variables. One is dt1, the second one is dt2. In the join data table, we will use dt1 here. In the second one, we will use dt2. In the output, we will create one new variable dt3. And we can click on join wizard to see how to join these two data tables. So as you can see, we have three join type options. One is inner, left, and full. So let's use full for now. In the column table 1, it is asking to give a column name. So we'll join on the basis of ID column. So in both the data table, we have ID column. So we will join on the basis of that. In the operation, you can put equal. We'll use output data table as text here as well. We'll print dt3 variable in a text. Then we'll use one box activity. Now currently we don't have data in this data table, so let's add some data. So I'll put 1 2 3, name ABC, folder 1 2 4 paste. The second one as well, we'll add some value 4 5 6 1 2 3 1 2 3 paste 1 2 3. So let's now see what it does. Now what it has done, it has added two columns from DT1, and from DT2 it has renamed the column name to make column name as unique. It has appended as _1. So now you can see wherever it matched, like 1 to 3 for ID column, it has added in the same row, and wherever it didn't match, it has added in the new row. The same way join data table works. Now let's see what is left. So we understood join data table. Now see what is lookup data table. So for this we will go back to main workflow. We'll use lookup data table here. So what this activity does, it you can search for any value in a particular data table. So let's see how it works. In the data table text box, we'll give data table variable name. In the column name, if you want to search that particular value in a specific column, you can give that column name here. And in the lookup value, you need to give the value you are trying to search. So I will give ABC, and in the output you can get cell value and the row index. So let's get row index, and in the cell value we can take cell value, and let's take one message box. So we had created two variables, one is cell value and row index. Let's print it here. So cell value, row index. So row index will be an integer variable, so we have to convert it to a string. So let's run it. Okay, this is having validation error. So let's see. So we have to mandatorily put a column name here. So we'll put name column. See, error is gone. So you have to give the column name so that it can search only in this particular column. So let's try to run. Yeah, we are able to run. So what it did, it is saying that ABC column is present in the second row. So let's delete this first row for now. Or what we can do, we can also, instead of deleting, we can comment this. So for that, right click here and click on disable activity. So it is disabled. We can also move these activities here as it is not required as of now. So you can see ABC was present in third row because we already have two rows mentioned in this build data table activity. But here the output was coming as 2 because in the data table row starts from 0. So if it is showing as 2, it means it is third row. In the same way, you can use lookup data table to find any value in a particular data table. So now the next one is merge data table. For this, we will go back to join data table sequence, and then we'll use merge data table activity. So here you have to just put DT1. In the destination, you can put DT2. That's it. And let's see what it does. Now what I'm going to do, I will print DT2. So we'll change it here. And then let's run. So you can see what it did. It has just appended the data into DT2 because it had same columns. Now what if we have one extra column in DT1? So let's add one column here. We'll put role and click OK. And let's put data as well. Paste role. Okay. Now let's see what it does. So what it did, it added 3 columns here like ID, name and role, and wherever the role was present, it has added that value. Otherwise it is showing as null value. You can see here. So this is how my data table works. Output data table as text we have already seen here. Now we have remove data column. So let's go to main again, delete this lookup data table. we'll come here and we'll move this to outside to enable these activities. So remove data column is like if you want to remove some data column from a data table variable, so you can use this activity. Here you have to provide the column name, then data table. So we have data table 1 and let's run it. So what it did, it had deleted name column from this data table variable. The next one we have remove data row. So let's use this one as well. Here you can provide row index or if you have a data row object, but we can give a row index. Let's give 0 because in the data table row index starts from 0. So we'll delete the first row. So you can see it had deleted the first row data. What if we put 1? It means it will delete the second row. You can see here the second row got deleted. The next one is remove duplicate row. As the name says, right, it will delete the duplicate rows value from a data table. So for this, let's add one duplicate value. So what I'm going to do, I will copy this and paste it here. Again paste it here. It means 3 rows we have with the same values. So in the output as well, let's give the same data table variable and then run it. So you can see we have 3 different rows with the same value. Now you can see after removing the duplicate row, it had deleted 2 rows and only unique rows are showing here. So this is how remove duplicate rows work. Now the next one is update row item. So for this also, now you can see after removing the duplicate row, it had deleted 2 rows and only unique rows are showing here. So this is how remove duplicate rows work. Now the next one is update row item. For this again, we have to use for each row activity, which is commented. Now if you want to uncomment this activity, right, you can just right click here and click on enable activity. So it will get enabled. So let's go here. We'll delete this get row item. We'll delete the message box as well. And update row item, we'll drag it here. In this basically what it will do, it can change the value of particular row. So we are using current row variable. We'll put current row here and for what value we want to update. So let's give test edit and column name we have to specify. We can either declare number or name. So let's give number. It means first column we want to update the value with test added. So now let's run it. So the first one you can see without going through this activity, it has name as EFT and other values. Now click OK and now you can see what it did. It has changed the value to test added. So in this session, I have covered all the data table activities. Hope you are able to understand. If not, please do let me know if you have any question in the comment section. And that's all for today. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.